All right, I'll go. But I'll be fashionably late. No, yes, no, yes. No, yes. Definitely not. All right, I've made my decision. I'm going, and that's that. Have my fingers crossed.
The streets of Chicago's South Loop were alive with the buzz of a Monday morning. Parents held their children's hands, backpacks bounced, cameras flashed to capture a milestone, the first day of school. In the middle of it all was 31-year-old Remeca Meeks, carrying a hope-filled heart and a handwritten note for her son. She believed this was the start of his future. She had no idea it was also the end of hers. Hours before the gunfire, Remeca's pen had already written the most haunting words of the day. Her note, tucked gently into her little boy's bag, was filled with encouragement, love, and pride. She told him he was the smartest, funniest, and bravest kid she knew. Words meant to send him into the classroom with confidence. Words that, by nightfall, the world would read as a mother's farewell.
In broad daylight, under investigation tonight.
WGN's Courtney Spinelli has been speaking with people who know the victim, and she has more.
The deadly shooting happened this morning right here along Remeca near State after loved ones of the victim say she had just dropped her son at school. Sources close to the investigation say a woman is in custody after allegedly pulling the trigger.
But fate had set the stage for something far from a celebration. Because at that same drop-off point, the past was waiting, an ex, a new partner, and a grudge that refused to die. In minutes, the morning turned from hugs and laughter to an argument, a headlock, and a weapon. So here's the question you'll carry with you. How does a school drop-off, a place meant for beginnings, become the very scene where a child loses his mother forever? If you've ever sent someone off with love, only to wonder if it was enough, subscribe now. Too often, people don't realize the weight of their words until silence replaces them. Do you believe a single morning can hold signs of tragedy that no one notices? Welcome to Forensic True Crime Stories, where we share true crime stories based on real events that deserve to be told. Kindly support us by subscribing to this channel and turn on the notification bell icon so you never miss a new story. This story will be taking us to Chicago South Loop, Illinois. We didn't just see a viral note. We saw a person, a woman with a life, a career, and a family. The internet decided her name was Remeca Meeks. It was a name that quickly came to represent a kind of quiet strength. We were told she was a hard-working manager at a McDonald's, a dedicated parent, and the kind of person who held her life together with grace. Her last message to her son gave us a window into that world, and the public looked in. But she wasn't just living her life, she was building a new one. The online narrative said she was studying to be a nurse, a goal driven by her desire for stability. Her dream wasn't about personal fame. It was about securing a better, safer future for her son. This detail made her more than just a victim. It made her a fighter, a woman whose life was cut short just as she was reaching for a better life. The world mourned the loss of a person they felt they knew. But her story, as it was told, was also one of torment. She was, according to the viral posts, a victim of relentless harassment from her ex-boyfriend. The narrative described a toxic, controlling relationship that she had finally escaped. The public was led to believe this tragedy wasn't a random act, but the brutal, premeditated culmination of months of intimidation. It made her not just a victim, but a survivor who was finally standing up for herself, only to be ambushed. This built the foundation for the next chapter of a story that would become a household name. It's easy to get lost in a story like this and feel like you know the person. But what if that feeling is based on something that isn't real? Don't leave this story until you have all the facts. Is it a good thing that we can feel so connected to a stranger's story, even if the details are completely wrong? Every story needs a hero, and a hero often needs someone to fight against. The viral narrative gave us those figures, too. It introduced us to Carlos Lozo's Way, the ex-boyfriend, and Holly Johnson, his new girlfriend. The public was given a simple, Clear reason for the tragedy: jealousy. A rivalry between two women, escalated by a man caught in the middle. According to the posts, Holly Johnson was portrayed as the new partner, driven by a possessive anger toward the woman who came before her. She was cast as the aggressor in this online drama, the one who held a grudge and refused to let go. And Carlos Lozo's Way, the father of the victim's child, was given the role of the complicit bystander. The narrative says that in a moment of fury, he held his ex in a headlock, preventing her from fighting back, allowing the final, fatal act to happen.
She's the one who shot her. Restraining order, but she shot her. The gun in the car. The gun's in the car. Oh my fucking God! The page in the car. How you feel? She was up there. Get up. You scared as hell, right? Scared as hell. You had it, baby. Scared as hell. Why did you have the fence? You were trying to stop her in the car. You're trying to hit the car, bro. What are you talking about? You had her in a headlock. You shot her, Cody. I was there. I read the statement. I want her arrested. There's a fucking gun on the street. I'm licensed to carry. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, bitch. You shot somebody, nigga.
The public saw him not just as a participant, but as a coward who enabled a tragedy. These were the simple roles assigned to them by the online world: a jealous new girlfriend and an ex who betrayed a trust. We all love a good villain, but a villain is just a character. If you're willing to blindly accept these characters, then you're missing the real story behind the tragedy. Does social media need villains and heroes to make a story interesting enough to go viral? The morning of the homicide was presented by social media as the final act of a long, painful story. It was framed as an attack in broad daylight, a confrontation near a school. This narrative says that after Remeca dropped off her son, she was confronted. The details, unconfirmed and widely circulated, describe a sudden, furious argument. The script, as told online, says that the male figure, her ex-boyfriend, put her in a headlock. This detail was a key part of the public's understanding of what happened. It was the act that took away her ability to fight back. Her life was, in this narrative, ended by a single, brutal shot. The online world claimed it was a premeditated and cowardly act, carried out in plain sight. This is the climax the internet created for itself. It gave the victim a final, tragic moment and provided a clear, emotional conclusion. The story of Remeca Meeks was now complete, and it had a clear beginning, middle, and end. You've just witnessed a tragedy as the public saw it. If you believe everything you just watched, then you have no reason to stay. But if you're curious about what really happened, then you need to stick around. Does a compelling narrative make a story more valuable than the truth? The story of the ambushed mother and the jealous ex spread with confidence. People shared the victim's note, the suspect's photos, and the details of the crime as if they were established facts. For a time, there was no questioning it. The narrative was complete. But an investigation into the official record tells a different story. News reports from that day confirmed the core event. A 31-year-old woman was indeed fatally shot in Chicago's South Loop, just as the viral posts claimed. Her death was confirmed. The location, near a school, was also correct. The police stated that the incident was domestic-related and a suspect was taken into custody. However, a closer look at the official statements from the Chicago Police Department reveals a massive point of divergence. While the public was confidently naming the people involved, police explicitly stated that the names of the victim and the offender were not being released.
It's not fair. The person doesn't come back. You need to understand that. They don't come back. Your life is taken too. So who really lose? Everybody lose. It's no win in a situation.
The story the internet was so sure of was missing its most basic components. The names Remeca Meeks, Carlos Lozo's Way, and Holly Johnson, the entire cast of this public drama, were not present in any official report. The narrative had a foundation of truth, but the details were built on something else entirely. The truth is a choice. You can go back to the story you already know, or you can stay here and find out how a lie becomes the truth on social media. Your next step shows what you truly value. Why do we feel more comfortable with a dramatic lie than an inconvenient truth? When the public was told that an unnamed woman was shot in the South Loop, it created a void. The viral note gave us a human face, a mother's last message, but the official report gave us nothing more. People had an emotional story, but they didn't have names to attach to it. So, the online world went searching for them. What it found, according to our investigation, were pieces of other stories. On the same day as the homicide, a man was charged in a completely separate Chicago murder case in the very same neighborhood. His detention hearing was scheduled for that exact Monday morning, September 8, 2025. This was a separate event with different individuals, but it shared the same date and the same general location as the woman's killing. This is where the stories collided. The names from one case were taken and stitched onto the emotionally powerful details of the other. The public needed a cast of characters for the story of the note and the ambush. The names Remeca Meeks, Carlos Lozo's Way, and Holly Johnson came from an unconnected mix of online profiles and separate news reports. The narrative the world had fallen for wasn't a product of an investigation. It was the product of a digital assembly line, a process of taking bits and pieces and combining them into a compelling, but false, whole. Every time you share a story without checking, you're building a house of cards. This channel is about building a foundation of facts. Without it, your understanding of the world is going to crumble. Is it human nature to fill in the gaps of a story with whatever makes the most sense to us, even if it's wrong?
Help me! Somebody help me! Help! They're all standing around hurting me! Help me, nurses! Somebody get a doctor! Help! Nurse!
The viral narrative didn't just give us characters, it gave us a legal theory. The public was told that the man put the victim in a headlock, and the alleged shooter claimed her actions were justified. The narrative even included a quote, "I'm licensed to carry." These details created the illusion of a legally defensible act, a story that fit neatly into the public's understanding of right and wrong. But the law is not a simple script. In Illinois, the use of lethal force in self-defense is a serious matter. A person must reasonably believe that their actions are necessary to prevent death or serious bodily harm to themselves or another. The claim of a headlock would have to be weighed by a jury to determine if it truly justified a fatal shot from another person. The online narrative made a simple claim, but the legal reality is complex and full of questions. The statement about being licensed to carry is equally misleading. A concealed carry license permits someone to possess a firearm. It does not give them the legal right to use it in all situations. The report reveals a crucial detail that further undermines the viral story. Under Illinois law, a history of domestic battery, even if a case was dropped, is a valid reason to have a concealed carry license denied. The legal system views a domestic dispute with a firearm as a serious threat to public safety. The very claim of legal status in a moment of conflict would have been a massive issue in a real courtroom. The narrative's supposed defense was, from a legal perspective, a complete contradiction. Most people don't care about the facts. They just want a story that fits their worldview. If you're here to understand, not just to watch, then you're in the right place. Is a person with a concealed carry license less of a threat, or more of one, when they're involved in a heated domestic dispute? We have just examined two completely different versions of the same event. One is a collection of facts from an official investigation. The other is a dramatic narrative created by the internet. The facts are incomplete, anonymous, and lack emotional punch. The narrative, however, is full of compelling details. It has a beloved victim, a clear motive, and distinct villains. It's the kind of story that travels fast because it's easy to understand. But why did the public choose the drama over the truth? The answer lies in our need for narrative. The viral note was the emotional hook, the anchor that made the story feel personal. It gave people a reason to care. And when they cared, they needed characters to go with the plot. The narrative provided them, a new girlfriend, an ex-boyfriend, and assigned them motives that were familiar and easy to accept. It didn't matter that the names weren't real. The characters felt real. The truth, on the other hand, was an anonymous news report. It was a complex legal situation with no clear villain and no emotional resolution. It didn't give us a person to mourn or a clear evil to condemn. It was simply a tragedy. The fictional story gave the public something to grasp, something to be outraged by, and something to share. You're now one of the few people who has the real story. What will you do with it? Will you go back to the easy lies? Or will you choose the difficult truth? Do we, as a society, need villains and heroes to make sense of a tragedy, even if we have to invent them?
Quick question. When y'all be in everybody else's business and not y'all own, y'all be getting paid for that? I thought manage your business, hoe.
When he talking about more kids, and you stand bad AF like Dennis the Menace.
Who the fuck is we? I ain't doing that shit, so you ain't talking about me.
For the first few minutes of this story, we made you care about a person. We talked about her hopes, her family, and her dreams. We built a portrait of a woman named Remeca Meeks. You felt empathy for her. You felt outrage at her fate. But the real tragedy is this. While we were all focusing on the story of Remeca, a real person, a real mother, had her own life, her own family, and her own dreams. And her actual name, her real identity, and the truth of her life have now been completely overshadowed by a viral lie. The woman who was actually killed is now just a name in a police report, a statistic in a news brief. Her memory has been replaced by a fictional persona. The note, the one that began this entire journey, was a real and heartbreaking message. But the people who read it and who shared it took the message and gave it to a ghost. We all participated in erasing the true person and giving life to a narrative that never existed. The greatest loss isn't just a life. It's the memory of that life. If you're still watching, it's because you know there's a deeper story here. What you choose to watch, like, and share has a real-world consequence. Don't be the reason a real person gets forgotten. When we share a lie about a victim, are we committing a second crime against them?
Quick Latrell.
I'm at work. I'm at work. I'm always at fucking work. Damn.
We have now traveled the entire distance of this story. We started with a single, viral note that captured our hearts. We followed a narrative that gave us a victim to mourn and villains to condemn. But in the end, we learned that the narrative was a public creation and the truth was an anonymous report. This isn't just one story about a single crime. It's a statement about how our society consumes information. In the absence of a complete picture, a simple tragedy becomes a blank page. And we, as a collective, feel a deep need to fill that page. We create characters. We give them names. We write their motives and their fates. But what we write is not reality. The human tendency to create a satisfying story can, and often does, overpower the facts. Before we go, we want to take a moment to honor the person at the heart of this tragedy. While the world may have forgotten your name, we remember that you were a real person, a daughter, and a devoted mother who was studying to be a nurse, driven by the hope of a better, stable life for your son. Our deepest sympathies go out to your family, and, most especially, to your son who received your last, most precious message. His memory of you and your aspirations will not be lost here. May you rest in peace. This is a choice we make every single day. We can choose to consume the easy, emotional narrative that gives us heroes and villains. Or we can choose to demand the facts, even if they are incomplete and hard to find. The truth may not be a perfect story, but it is the only foundation we have. What is the price of a lie? It's the cost of a person's identity, a family's truth, and an entire narrative that becomes a public deception. The truth is not just an option, It's a necessity. It's what our channel is about. Don't leave without subscribing. In a world with so much information, is it possible for us to ever know the whole truth? Dear viewers, if you found this investigation insightful, kindly like and share this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell for future updates. It will mean a lot to us and encourage us to keep bringing you these true crime stories. Thanks for watching till the end, and until our next video, stay safe.